Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to Camp Blood Media. My name is Josh, and I just finished watching all the movies in my Friday the 13th Deluxe Blu-ray box set. You know what that means? It's time to rank them. And coming in at number 12, we have Jason Goes to Hell, The Final Friday. I'm sure you guys aren't surprised that this is my last place Friday movie. The fact that it's basically not Jason for the whole movie and it's just him jumping bodies, and you really only get Jason action at the beginning and at the very end, it's pretty easy to put this one at the very bottom of the pile because there's just not enough going on in it to really make it feel like a Friday the 13th movie. It almost feels like an episode of Friday the 13th the series, which is funny because the main guy from Friday the 13th the series is in this movie. So, I don't know. I really like the cameo at the end, and when Jason is on screen, the movie's really good. Like, the opening is really good with the FBI agent that's, like, fooling him. And then the ending, when they're kind of battling it with him, and you have that little cameo of, I'll just say, Freddy Krueger at the end, is really awesome, but the movie itself is just not that good, and if it was like just ever so slightly worse, I probably wouldn't even watch it on my Friday 13th rewatches. It just barely kind of scrapes by for me. And coming in at number 11 is Friday the 13th Part 8, Jason Takes Manhattan. Now I actually do really like this movie, and it gets a lot of hate from a lot of other people. Most people do have it ranked this far down on their lists. However, I actually do have a lot of fun with it. I don't mind that the end of the movie only has Jason for like 15 minutes or so in New York. I really like all the boat action, him stalking all the students on the boat and killing them off one by one. Like, I find this movie does have a lot of really great kills, and we're getting more Kane Hodder Jason, which is obviously like pretty much the best Jason. And I don't know, I find this movie gets a little more flack than it deserves. However, the weird psychic visions that the main girl is having throughout the movie aren't that good, and the ending in the sewer tunnels is probably one of the worst endings, if not the worst ending out of all the Friday the 13th movies, so it kind of does deserve its spot at the bottom of the list, as much as I do like the look of Jason in this movie and even some of the characters and the kills. I just don't think I can rank it that high with all the weird like visions that are going on and the weird like little boy Jason stuff that's happening throughout the movie. I think there's too much wrong with it to be able to rank it higher than number 11. It's definitely better than Goes to Hell, no question, but that's not really saying all that much. And coming in at number 10, I suppose it's appropriate that we have Jason X. Now, this movie is usually at the bottom of other people's lists. They really don't like the whole Jason in space aspect, and I can agree that it's definitely a little silly, him being frozen for like 400 years and unfrozen in the future, and then later on becoming Uber Jason and having the metal body and the metal mask. It can definitely be pretty silly, but I find it has some of the best kills. The kill where he freezes the girl's head in the, I forget what it's called, but he freezes her head in this stuff, brings it up and looks at it, and then smashes her face off the counter. Like, it's brutal, and it's definitely right up there with probably the sleeping bag kill from, I think it's part 7 or part 8, and the axe kill from Never Hike in the Snow. Like, this movie definitely has really good kills. If you just kind of forget that it's silly that he's in space, I think you can have a really good time with this movie because all of the characters are pretty fun. And Jason is like full force Jason throughout the whole movie, so it's kind of hard to not have a good time with this movie. And coming in at number 9, we have Friday the 13th Part 1. And listen, this isn't to say that Friday the 13th 1 is bad or anything because it's this far down the list. From pretty much here, well actually from pretty much Jason X up, I really like all of the movies. Honestly, I love them all except for Jason Goes to Hell. But this one and like the next 3 spots are pretty much interchangeable. It was very hard for me to place them in the ranking, but I decided to put Friday 13th Part 1 in this spot just because it doesn't have Jason in it basically, and once you know that the killer is who it is, it kind of loses a little bit of that mystery from it. I don't know. I do really like the movie. Like, I love the setting, love the kills, and I actually do love Pamela as the killer, but I just find that it's missing a little bit of that Friday the 13th magic without Jason in it, and that's why I had to rank it where I put it. And coming in at number 8, we have Friday the 13th, 2009. Now I can hear some of you screaming at the screen right now saying, "Oh my god, you fucking put the reboot above the original?" And I can agree with that, trust me. I had a very hard time deciding where I wanted these placed on the list. And probably if I was to rank these again after rewatching them, the first one could easily be above the ones I've already listed. But I just think with the awesome opening that this movie has, it's like a 15-minute opening of its own little like Friday the 13th movie. And then when you actually go through all the amazing kills that this movie has, this Jason is really great. He's super fast and he like has no mercy. I just think that when you put everything together that this movie has working for it versus ignoring what it has working against it, it really is a really awesome entry in the Friday the 13th series, and I don't know, I think it's the best of the 3 big reboots between Nightmare, Halloween, and Friday the 13th, easily. And coming in at number 7, we have Friday the 13th Part 5, A New Beginning. Now, some people have an issue with this movie because there's a little bit of a difference in the killer this time around, but for the most part, you don't know that until the very end, and I find from beginning up until that point of the reveal, this is a full-on Friday the 13th movie for me. It has a ton of great kills in it, the atmosphere is perfect, I love the return of Tommy. I don't know, I just think that this movie takes more flack than it deserves just because of the killer. And I think that if people would just kind of get that out of their minds and like enjoy the movie for what it is, they would have a lot better time with it. Like I said, the kills are really great, the score is awesome, Tommy's back, it really is a great entry in the franchise, and I don't feel bad for ranking it this high up. And coming in at number 6, we have Friday the 13th Part 3, 3D. Now, the first thing I gotta say is, this movie is not better than Dream Warriors. That might be a random reference, but there was recently a Friday Night franchise fights where Friday the 13th Part 3 won over Nightmare 3 Dream Warriors, and I gotta say, that's nuts. Anyway, the reason I have Part 3 up so high as it is because it's good despite the 3D shit that's in it. Like, the 3D gimmick really pulls the movie down for me. Like, constantly having shit coming at the screen just for gimmick's sake is just awful. But the fact that the movie is as good as it is, despite the 3D, I had a hard time not putting it up really high. Like, despite what I just said a few minutes ago about not being as good as Dream Warriors, it is a really great Friday the 13th movie, and I think it's got some really great kills. It's the debut of Jason's hockey mask, so you've got to love that. And I just think it has a lot of the elements that make a really great Friday the 13th movie, and it kind of flip-flopped on my list a little bit, but I think this is a really perfect spot for it, judging by like the awesome atmosphere it has in the kills versus the kind of shitty 3D. So, number 6 it is. And coming in at number 5, it's Freddy vs. Jason. Now at this point in the list, I'm basically thinking to myself, if I was on a desert island and I could only have 5 movies with me, the 5 Friday the 13th movies, which ones would I want to have with me? And that's kind of where I'm going from here, and I gotta have Freddy vs. Jason with me. I know it didn't turn out exactly the way we all wanted it to, and Freddy's definitely underrepresented kill-wise in the movie. I just think it's so fun seeing them come together for the first time and seeing Freddy manipulate the situation to get Jason into Elm Street and seeing him go wild on all the Elm Street kids, just chopping them up at the cornfield, and then seeing them come head to head later on in the movie. Like, I think the fight scene between them is fucking awesome. I love the battle at the end of this movie. When I first got this movie, I probably watched it every day for like 2 months after school, just because I love seeing these two horror villains come up against each other. So, like I said, if I was trapped on an island and I can only have 5 movies with me, 5 Friday the 13th movies, this would be number 5. Alright, and coming in at number 4, we have Friday the 13th Part 7, The New Blood. Now, I really enjoy this movie. I get that some people might not like that Tina has psychic powers and she does a lot of the Carrie stuff throughout the movie, but I really, really like the look on Jason's face, or his expression, when they start fighting and she's whooping the shit out of him and he's just like, what is happening right now? Like, this never happens to me. And I just think that it has a ton of great kills. Like, almost all of the kills in this movie are, like, top-notch. It has a great cast of characters. I like Tina, I like the boyfriend. I find the blonde girl, Melissa, is like the perfect bitch. It all comes together really well in this movie, and if you don't like the psychic stuff, sure, but that aside, this is a great entry in Friday the 13th, and I just don't get that it gets as much hate as it does. But for me, it's definitely taken the number 4 spot because I love the Tina versus Jason in this movie. I have a lot of fun with it. And taking the number 3 spot is Friday the 13th Part 4, The Final Chapter. Now, a lot of you probably were thinking that this was going to take the top spot on my list, and I'll say this now. This movie and the next 2 spots on the list are basically tied. Like, there's so little room between them. Like, even now, I'm like, am I sure this is my number 3? Because the next 3 movies, or these 3 movies, are in a tier of their own. They are the best, and I really struggled in ranking these. Next year when I do these rankings again, I imagine that it could be different, so we'll see what happens when we get to that. Now, I really love this movie because it picks up right after Part 3, has kills right away. Like, there's tons of kills throughout the movie. All the kills are really great. The characters themselves are really great. You got Tommy and his sister and his mom and all the kids that are coming there to vacation. You got Crispin Glover in the movie. I just think that, like, this is, like, I think if you're trying to get somebody into Friday the 13th that's never seen anything before, this one might be, like, the quintessential Friday the 13th movie to show them, because this is Friday the 13th. The only thing that I would really say that this movie is missing for me is the camp setting. I know it has, like, the Jarvis house and the other house, but the actual camp setting from some of the other movies, I really like that, and this movie just doesn't have it. So if I was trying to find reasons why I would rank this one lower than my next 2 spots, it would be because it's not in that setting. So, like I said, it's very thin reasons for separating these 3 movies, so don't get mad that this isn't my number 1, because the margin between them is so close that it's almost impossible to choose. And taking the number 2 spot, we have Friday the 13th Part 2. I gotta say, I love me some Baghead Jason. I think that the opening of this movie, where he finishes off the survivor from the first movie, is awesome. I feel bad that she has to go, but I really like that Jason is not putting up with any shit with the person that killed his mother. He just goes and kills her right away. The kills are really great in this movie. The camp setting in this movie is perfect. I love the setting. All of the characters are really good. Like, this, I find, is Friday the 13th. The only thing that could make it, like, slightly better for me would be if maybe in the last, like, 10-15 minutes of the movie, had he got his hockey mask then, so that we had hockey mask Jason for the final 15 minutes or so. But even without hockey mask Jason, I love this movie. I think if it did have hockey mask Jason in it for a few minutes, it would probably be my number 1. But the fact that he's missing from this movie, just like how the camp setting is kind of missing from Final Chapter, it did kind of help me with ranking these final 3. But honestly, it doesn't bring down the movie at all. This movie is really great, and I think it was my favorite for years and years and years, and it could very well take the top spot again next year. Who knows? I guess we'll have to wait and see. And here at the end of the list, at number 1, we have Friday the 13th Part 6, Jason Lives. Now, this one I had to choose as my favorite because it just has everything for me. Like, you've got hockey mask Jason in full force as, like, undead Jason. can't be stopped. You've got Tommy Jarvis, pretty much the best protagonist in the franchise, I would say. You've got the camp setting, which the previous final chapter is missing. And I find when it all comes together, it just creates like the perfect Friday the 13th movie. Like, this movie has great kills all the way through, from the beginning to the end. The storyline of Tommy wanting to stop Jason for good and then going against each other, like the whole ending sequence of them battling it out at the camp with the chains and the fire on the lake. I couldn't not pick this one as my number one. Like, if I was on a desert island and I could only have one Friday the 13th movie with me, it would be Jason Lives, just because it really does have all of the elements of Friday the 13th. And it's just, I don't know, it has that Jason magic for me that I find a few of the movies are missing. I really think that this movie, above all of the others, really represents Friday the 13th and all of that it has to offer. Even though it might be a little silly to some with the resurrected Jason and the scene where he's killing the people paintballing in the woods and he like cuts their 3 of their heads off and then he like throws one guy into the tree and there's a smiley face. Sure, that's all silly, but I just think it adds to the fun of the movie, and I couldn't not pick Jason Lives as my number one. Alright guys, and that's it. My ranking of the Friday the 13th Deluxe Blu-ray box set and the franchise in general. I understand that some of you probably have different rankings, so please, 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 leave me your ranking of the franchise in the comments below. I want to know what you think of the Friday the 13th series. Personally, and this might be a little controversial, but I think Friday the 13th might be my favorite slasher franchise. Like, literally from the first movie all the way up to part 8, it has a super solid timeline. And even though part 8 isn't the best, 1 through 7 are really, really good movies. With the exception of, like, I guess, like Jason being missing from New Beginning and some of the 3D stuff in part 3 3D. But everything else is really solid. Tons of great kills throughout the franchise. Tons of great characters. The Tommy saga is so good. And then there's also like the part 2, 3, 4 saga, because they all take place within like 3 or 4 days of each other. I just think that this franchise has the most to offer in terms of a straight continuity and just a ton of great movies to choose from. I suppose there's only really one big stinker in the whole franchise, and that's Jason Goes to Hell. For me, all of the other movies are really great, and I would pretty much watch them anytime. If someone was like, hey, you want to watch Jason Takes Manhattan? Absolutely. You want to watch part 2? Fuck yeah, right now. Like, there's just so many good movies in this franchise that I think I have to pick it as my number one. Now, I still think that there might be somebody else who's my favorite slasher. I don't know necessarily if it's Jason, but just in terms of a slasher franchise and the movies themselves, I think I gotta go with Friday the 13th as my favorite. Sorry, Michael. So that's my ranking for the Friday the 13th franchise. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you liked the video, leave me a comment in the comment section down below, and please like and subscribe. It means a lot for the channel and really helps it out. Plus, it means I can get all my videos out to you guys even easier, which is really what this is all about, because I just want to connect with more horror fans. Coming up next, I have my reaction to all 3 parts of Halloween Inferno, so stay tuned for that. That'll be coming out on October 31st, Halloween, so stay tuned. Alright guys, until the next one, have a good one.